makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
Ted Cruz, one of the most well-known members of the Republican Party, has pathetically bent the knee to the most powerful figure in the US far right at this point in time, Tucker Carlson. This was the result of Tucker grilling him over the use of the term terrorist to describe the January 6th insurrectionists. So let's watch this snippet and we'll see just the massive influence that Tucker has over the discourse being used, and how even someone as powerful as a sitting senator like Ted Cruz ends up having to be this pathetic and spineless in the face of Daddy Tucker. So let's watch.
So we played this tape for you last night. We were surprised by it. We prefaced it by saying every conservative appreciates Ted Cruz because he's one of the smartest and most articulate people in the Congress, and he's conservative. But he referred publicly to what happened on January 6th as, quote, a violent terror attack. Here it is.
We are approaching a solemn anniversary this week, and it is an anniversary of a violent terrorist attack on the Capitol, where we saw the men and women of law enforcement demonstrate incredible courage, incredible bravery, risk their lives to defend the men and women who serve in this Capitol.
Now, what I love about the January 6th insurrection is that Republicans really have to struggle, doing the mental gymnastics of simultaneously supporting the insurrection itself and its ultimate objective, which was to overturn the election, with the fact that they're the people who, they're the Blue Lives Matter, respect law and order, support law enforcement, etc. Like, that's the discourse that they usually use. I mean, they spent the entire year before the insurrection complaining about the disorder of caused by BLM protesters and Antifa and whatever. So they have to kind of juggle with the mental gymnastics of supporting the objective of the insurrection and the insurrection itself, with the idea that is incompatible entirely with their discourse of supporting law enforcement as well as law and order. It's just completely incompatible. So they're struggling. They're really struggling. And I think Ted Cruz tries very poorly to kind of be on the fence in this issue. And you're going to see this more when he gives the explanation of why he said what he said.
Senator Cruz was game enough to come on tonight. We appreciate that. He joins us now. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So I guess there are a lot of dumb people in the Congress. You're not one of them. I think you're smarter than I am. And you never use words carelessly. And yet you called this a terror attack when by no definition was it a terror attack. That's a lie. You told that lie on purpose, and I'm wondering why you did.
Well, Tucker, thank you for having me on. When you aired your episode last night, I sent you a text shortly thereafter and said, listen, I'd like to go on because the way I phrased things yesterday, it was sloppy and it was frankly dumb. And
I don't buy that. Whoa. I don't buy that. Look, I've known you a long time, since before you went to the Senate. You were a Supreme Court contender. You take words as seriously as any man who's ever served in the Senate. And every word, you repeated that phrase. I do not believe that you used that accidentally. I just don't.
So wouldn't it be amazing if every single person in the US media grilled the other person the way that Tucker is doing here? And the reason that Tucker's doing it is because it would be simply unacceptable to just pass this off as I used poor wording. I was just being sloppy. No, Tucker here is demanding that Ted Cruz apologize and reiterate to all of Trump land that you people are not terrorists. As awful as you might be, you are not terrorists. And remember, these people think they're patriots. In their minds, they think they are patriots. They think the insurrection was an act of patriotism. They think overturning the election was the right thing. They are completely brainwashed over this. So what is necessary is not just to say that I slipped up, used the wrong word. Ted Cruz needs to categorically say that really there was hardly anything wrong done by the insurrection. That's really what they need to do. They need to whitewash it as much as possible.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. And I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists, and that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We've said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. How many people have been charged with terrorism on January 6th?
So here's the game that Tucker is playing. He's basically complaining about... So I also agree that it wasn't terrorism. Let's be honest, it wasn't. It could be a lot of things, but using the term terrorist to describe what happened on January 6th, I don't think that was the purpose of it. So no, I agree in that sense that technically speaking, the term terrorism should not be applied. But this ultimately is an issue of not like a legal definition of what went on January 6th or not, but rather an issue of hyperbole. So it was the use of that word to make hyperbole about what happened. And here's the thing, Tucker Carlson and every other right-winger uses hyperbole all the time. How many times were the same BLM and Antifa protesters described as terrorists and the protests described as terrorism? How many times did we not read that or hear that from right-wing pundits? Right-wingers love hyperbole when they're discussing any leftist cause, when they're describing immigrants, etc. They always use hyperbole. Tucker Carlson is guilty of using hyperbole all the time as well. And if I was Ted Cruz and I was going into this interview with him, I'd have a list of things that Tucker Carlson said, sort of in the same incendiary, exaggerated way. To read off and tell, hey, you kind of use these words as well. So give me a freaking break the one time I use it. Because he's not innocent of this accusation as well. But the right loves doing this. They love playing this game. You know, they for them, any word that is used to describe the actions of their opponents, leftists, etc., there is no word that is out of bounds. No word. I mean, for Christ's sake, white genocide. There is no fucking genocide being committed. But then when they're being accused of something, oh no, we have to use the exact term. We can't use any hyperbole. We can't use any other word that might make it seem worse than what we want it to be like. So that's a very, very hypocritical game that Tucker is playing. And like I said, if I was Ted Cruz and I was going into this interview, I would have made a list of all the crazy shit that Tucker Carlson has said and be like, well, yeah, you use incendiary language as well. But of course, he's not going to do that because Tucker Carlson is unassailable among right-wingers. No one on the right, no one on Trump land wants to be in the crosshairs of Tucker Carlson. He's that powerful. And that's why Ted Cruz is humiliating himself this way.
Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
So Tucker, let me answer you directly. The reason...
Wait, there's such a thing as domestic terrorism as well. I know that Tucker Carlson doesn't want that term to exist because because the grand majority of domestic terrorism in the U.S. is from right-wingers. But foreign combatants is not the definition of terrorism. So he's complaining about the misuse of a term by Ted Cruz when he himself is misusing that term.
And I use that word for a decade. I have referred to people who violently assault police officers as terrorists. I've done so over and over and over again. If you look at all the assaults we've seen across the country, I've called that terrorism over and over again. That being said, Tucker, I agree with you. It was a mistake to say that yesterday, and the reason is what you just said, which is we've now had a year of Democrats in the media twisting words and trying to say that all of us are terrorists, trying to say you're a terrorist, I'm a terrorist. And so, look, I don't like people who assault cops, and I stand up and defend cops. And The reason I use that word is that's the word I've always used for people that violently attack cops. But in this context, I get why people were angry, because we've had a year of the corrupt corporate media and Democrats claiming anyone who objected to the election fraud. And by the way, remember what was happening during those protests?
Can I just ask, hold on, you work in this, I guess I just don't believe you. And I mean that with respect, because I have such respect for your acuity and your precision. And I've seen it on display. I've covered you as a reporter. I know how you speak. And you have sat there for a year and watched people use language to distort the events of that day. Intentionally. Insurrection. Coup.
Of course it
terrorism.
Was insurrection.
It was an insurrection. It was an attempted coup. That's a fact. You were trying to overturn the results of an election. That's what a coup is.
Saying it's an insurrection is a political term. It's a lie. I've repeatedly denounced it. And when it comes to, look, I was focusing on what I normally say. That what you aired was a little 15-second snippet. What I normally say is violence is wrong, peaceful protest is right. If you engage in violence, you should be prosecuted. If you're speaking, you have a right to speak. I say that all the time.
Well, I agree.
In that snippet.
So who's Ray Epps, by the way, since you are a senator? Like, he and this other guy are clearly encouraging the crowd to commit crimes. Neither one has been arrested or charged. What is that, do you think?
So I think that is a very good question. I don't know who Ray Epps is. I've seen that video multiple times. It's disturbing. He's clearly urging the crowd to violate the law. When you see the crowd start chanting, Fed, 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 for him to appear on the FBI's most wanted list and come off, it certainly suggests he was working for the FBI. That's not conclusive, but that's the obvious implication.
The golden rule is that any discussion among the right-wingers of the January 6th insurrection will inevitably lead to FBI involvement. It's what it leads to.
And the Attorney General and the Department of Justice won't answer the question. Tucker, I can tell you, I joined with a number of other senators trying to get the Biden DOJ to answer the question why so many January 6 prisoners are in solitary confinement, why they're being treated so much worse than the Antifa rioters and the people who committed firebombing and a year of riots across the country. And this.
Wait, did he just use the word firebombing? A word that was invented in World War II to describe the mass city bombings that took place in places like Dresden and Hamburg and Tokyo. Why is Tucker Carlson not saying, hey, wait. Yeah, there were cases of riots, there was some looting, there was some arsoning, but no American city was burned down. Do you think Tucker would ever say that? Of course not. Because, like I said, hyperbole is fine when you're describing what leftists do. Tucker Carlson will never push back if someone says, the summer where American cities burned down, or the left is burning American cities down. And you hear this all the time from right-wingers, but you will never hear that pushback from Tucker Carlson. So, repeat, hyperbole is fine when it's used against the left. Let's exaggerate whatever they do as much as possible. They are terrorists, fire bombers, city burners. But let's not call the insurrectionists, the Capitol rioters, terrorists in any way, because, oh no, now you have to go on my show and apologize to the entire nation and humiliate yourself.
Biden DOJ won't go after them. But let me also make a quick point, Tucker. Remember, while thousands of people were standing up to defend this country on January 6th, at that exact moment, I was standing on the Senate floor objecting to the election results, demanding that we impanel an election commission to consider evidence of voter fraud. And I brought together 11 senators to join me in supporting getting to the bottom of that. So, of course, it would be ridiculous for me to be saying that the people standing up and protesting to follow the law were somehow terrorists. I was talking about people who commit violence against cops. And you and I both agree, if you commit violence against cops, you should go to jail.
Yeah, but you're not a terrorist. You're not. You're a guy who assaulted a cop. Okay, so there's a legal difference, as you well know better than I do, since you were actually in the running for the Supreme Court. And there's a moral difference between a guy.
But Tucker, the reason I use that word is for a decade I've used that word for people that violently assault cops. I use that word all in 2020 for the Antifa and BLM terrorists that assaulted cops and firebombed police cars. But I agree, it was a mistake to use the word yesterday because the Democrats and the corporate media have so politicized it. They're trying to paint everyone as a terrorist, and it's a lie.
Exactly.
And by the way, I've spoken out vocally against your exchange you just had. They want to paint us as Nazis. Yes,
I know, it's scary.
That is what they're trying to do. And I just, look,
They are Nazis.
I'm the one leading the fight in the Senate against this garbage. And it's what I have been doing, and it's what I'll continue doing.
Well, I appreciate your coming on tonight. Thank you.
Well, that is now the second time that Ted Cruz humiliates himself in front of Trump land. Remember the first time when Trump called him, insulted his wife, said he was going to spill the beans. And what happened? He became a Trump loyalist. So, yeah, this is a man with no spine, like almost everyone in Trump land. They will bend the knee whenever it is politically expedient to do so. And, well, it's obvious that his reaction had consequences, because this is Trump land's reaction after his initial statements. Senator Ted Cruz appeared on Fox News Tucker Carlson's program on Thursday night to beg for forgiveness after calling the Capitol riot a violent terrorist attack. But it has only caused Trump world diehards to sour on the Texas senator. Longtime Republican operative Roger Stone fumed after Cruz called his initial remarks sloppy and frankly dumb. "You're enjoying your last term in the U.S. Senate," Stone declared. "What a pandering, philandering asshole." January 6, Stop the Steal organizer Ali Alexander chimed in. "Ted Cruz apologizes for being dumb and lying. Now let's see if he'll stand up for the due process rights of patriots." The pylon didn't end there. Far-right shock jock Stu Peters called Cruz a traitor, while livestream turned Capitol rioter Tim Guionet told Cruz to go fuck himself. Right-wing conspiracy theorist Alex Jones further floated the unhinged idea that the Texas senator wants to be part of the Bush-era Republican Party and start putting everyone in FEMA camps. All right, great. Yep. There you go. That is all the signs of a cult, which we've all known that Trump land is a cult, where you cannot say certain things. Remember, these are the free speech people as well. You cannot say certain things without being thoroughly destroyed for, not towing the line of these absolute insane sycophants. But yeah, I kind of enjoyed this. Any instance of Ted Cruz humiliating himself is genuinely enjoyable. But having said that, it is still worrying just how much power Tucker Carlson has over right-wing discourse. There is no one, I repeat, no one in the U.S. media right now that has the power that Tucker Carlson has over far-right discourse. He sets the talking points, he defines the narrative, and, whatever Tucker says, it starts flowing. And you start hearing those same talking points across the board. And I think the only one that has sort of that degree of appeal and influence is Joe Rogan, actually. Although his segment is slightly different. He's more the sort of post-left meets disgruntled far right, not so much Trump land itself. Different audiences, but similar influence in terms of how they set the discourse. But yeah, this is amusing yet frightening at the same time. And I genuinely wonder if Tucker Carlson one day is going to make a run for office. And if he does, I think if there's only one person who could possibly beat Donald Trump in an election, could be Tucker Carlson. I genuinely think, because he's definitely a much more capable, speaker, and his audience he also has in his grip. So I think he might pull it off. We'll see. In the meantime, he definitely is making a bucket load of money doing what he does. But yeah, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like, please share. Most importantly, please subscribe, and I will see you next time.